Look in nice shops that sell watches. You often see spaces that are empty. Rolex watches should be there, but they are not. This sight is strange for many people. In the past, you could go into a shop and buy a beautiful Swiss watch easily. Now, for many popular Rolex models, this is very hard. The people working in the shops smile, but say, "We are sorry, we have a waiting list for this watch." A waiting list means you cannot buy the watch right now. Your name goes on a list. You must wait, sometimes for a very long time. It could be many months or even a few years before you get the chance to buy the watch you want. Many people around the world are on these waiting lists. They wait just for the possibility to spend money on a watch at the normal price. This situation with waiting lists has become very common. Is Rolex not making enough watches? Is there a problem in their factories? No. This situation, where many watches are hard to find and have long waiting lists, is not happening by chance. It is part of a careful plan by the company. Rolex controls how many watches they make and how they are sold. This method helps keep the brand very special and wanted. It makes the watches feel more exclusive and valuable because they are not easy to get. This book will explain why it is so hard to buy a Rolex today. We will look at how Rolex plans its production and its business strategy. We will see how the market works and why people want things that are difficult to get. This is a part of psychology. We will also learn about the shops that sell Rolex watches and the rules for buying them. This story is about watches, clever business plans, market forces, and the human desire for rare things. It shows how one company has made being hard to get a big part of its success and value in the world. 2. The start of a famous brand. Hans Wilsdorf started the Rolex company in London in 1905. He had a big dream for wristwatches. At that time, most people used pocket watches because they were seen as more serious and accurate. Wristwatches were not very common, often thought of as small or just for women. But Hans Wilsdorf wanted to make wristwatches that were both precise and strong, watches that men and women could wear and trust. He wanted them to be accurate and look very elegant. Rolex quickly made important new things in watches that changed the industry. In 1926, they made the first watch case that was truly waterproof. This was a very special invention because water is bad for watch parts. They called this famous design the oyster case, named after the sea creature that stays closed tightly. A few years later, in 1931, they made another important invention, a watch that could wind itself using the wearer's arm movement. You did not need to manually turn a small crown every day to keep it working. Wearing the watch on your wrist was enough. This technology was called the perpetual movement. These early inventions helped build Rolex's name for high quality and being first with new ideas. For many years, it was quite easy for people to buy a Rolex watch. In the 1980s and 1990s, you could often walk into a watch shop that sold Rolex and see many different models on display. If you liked one and had enough money, you could usually buy it right away. Shops sometimes even offered a small discount on the official price to customers. There were almost no long waiting lists for most standard models, maybe only for very rare limited editions. Rolex watches were expensive, but they were generally available to people who could afford them at the time. Around the year 2000, things started to change slowly for some models. Demand began to grow, making a few watches a little harder to find. But the really big change happened suddenly, starting around the year 2019 and 2020. In just a short period, it became extremely difficult to buy many of the most popular Rolex watches. Shops that sold the brand often had empty display cases where the watches should have been. People started to hear about waiting lists that were years long. This was a huge difference from how buying a Rolex used to be. Getting a Rolex watch changed from being a simple purchase to being a very difficult task. This situation did not happen by accident. It was part of a bigger story. 3. Making the watches. Rolex makes many watches every year. People might think the number is very large. It is around 1,200,000 watches each year. However, in the world today, many people want to buy a Rolex watch. So, when you compare the number of watches made to the number of people who want one, 1,200,000 watches is actually not enough for everyone. The watches are made in Switzerland. Rolex has 4 main places where they manufacture their timepieces. These are like very advanced factories. Inside these factories, there are skilled people and special machines. Workers carefully create the tiny parts, shape the strong metal cases, make the watch faces, and put all the complicated pieces together. The company is very careful about quality, checking every watch. Rolex has a plan for how many watches they make. It is called controlled production. They decide not to make the maximum number of watches possible. This is part of their strategy. They want to keep their watches high quality and also keep the brand feeling important and exclusive. If too many people could easily walk into a shop and buy a Rolex, it might not seem as special. Some types of Rolex watches are much more wanted than others. These are the popular models. Rolex makes only a limited number of these popular watches each year. Think about the famous Daytona watch. Rolex makes only about 60,000 Daytona watches each year for shops all over the world. The popular Submariner watch is made in slightly bigger numbers, around 300,000 each year. These limited numbers of popular watches are sent to authorized shops in many different countries. Because the total number is small, each shop only receives a small number of these highly wanted watches throughout the year. In recent years, the number of people wanting to buy a Rolex has increased a lot. There are many more potential buyers now than in the past. But Rolex is still making a careful, controlled number of watches, especially the most popular ones. This creates a big difference. The number of people who want a popular watch is much, much higher than the small number of those watches that the shops get. This growing difference between the high number of people who want to buy and the low number of watches available in shops is a major reason why it is so difficult to find and buy a popular Rolex watch today. 4. A smart plan. A smart plan is one that works very well for a company. For Rolex, the fact that their watches are difficult to buy is not a problem with making them. It is a clever business idea. Rolex makes fewer watches than people really want to buy. This is a chosen strategy, not an accident. It is called artificial scarcity. It means they make something scarce on purpose. It is different from when something is hard to find because there are no materials to make it. Rolex simply chooses to produce a limited number of popular models. Why do they do this? There are important reasons that help the brand. First, this scarcity helps Rolex stay very special and exclusive. Imagine if you could walk into any shop and buy any Rolex watch you wanted, quickly and easily. The watches might not feel as luxurious or difficult to own. By making them hard to get, Rolex keeps its image as a symbol of great success and high status. Owning a Rolex means you have something many people desire but cannot easily get. This exclusivity is a big part of the brand's value. Second, this clever scarcity helps Rolex keep its prices very high. When many people want something, but only a few of that item exist, people are willing to pay a lot more money for it. The limited number of watches means demand is always much higher than supply. This allows Rolex to raise prices over time without losing customers. In fact, sometimes when prices go up, people want the watches even more because they seem more valuable or like a better investment. This strategy uses a simple idea about people. It is part of human psychology. People often want things more when those things are hard to get. If something is very rare, we think it must be very good quality or very important. This is why limited edition items are often expensive and popular. Rolex has used this idea perfectly. By making their most wanted watches genuinely difficult to find, they change them from just nice watches into objects that people strongly desire and are willing to work or wait for. The long time people wait for a Rolex watch also adds to its value. Waiting for months or even years builds excitement and anticipation. When the watch finally arrives, getting it feels like a significant event, a personal victory. It shows you had the patience and the ability to get something that was hard to obtain. This makes the watch much more than just a piece of technology to tell the time. It becomes a trophy, a symbol of joining a special group, and a story of the journey to get it. This smart plan makes the watch feel extra special and valuable to the person who finally puts it on their wrist. 5. The shops and the rules. Rolex watches are not sold in every watch shop. They are sold in special official shops. These shops are called authorized dealers. These shops are very important. They are like gatekeepers. They decide which people can buy a watch. Rolex sends watches to these shops, but the shops do not choose the watches they want. Rolex decides what watches each shop receives. This is called allocation. A shop might get some watches that are easy to sell and some that are very hard to find. In the past, if you wanted a popular Rolex, you could put your name on a simple waiting list. The first person on the list would get the next watch. But now it is often different. Many shops do not use simple waiting lists anymore. They use something called interest lists. These lists are more like a database of people who want a watch. Getting a popular watch now often depends on your history with the shop. Shops like to sell watches to customers they know. To get a chance to buy a hard-to-find watch, you often need to buy other things first. You might need to buy a watch that is not so popular, or maybe some jewelry from the shop. This is called building a purchase history. People often call this whole process the Rolex game. You need to visit the shop, talk to the people who work there, and show that you are a serious customer. Buying other things shows that you are serious. Without a purchase history, it is very difficult to get watches like the popular sports models. The shops have many people who want the same watch, so they choose the customers they know best, or who have spent money there before. It is not just about waiting, it is about playing this game. 6. The most wanted watches. Not all Rolex watches are hard to find. There are different types of watches from Rolex. We can put them into 3 groups. The first group is watches that are easy to buy. You can often find these in the official shops. Examples are some gold watches or watches for ladies. Many diamond watches are also in this group. The second group is watches that are a little hard to get. You might need to wait a short time for these. This group includes some popular steel watches like certain Datejust models or the Explorer. The basic Submariner watch is also in this group. They are not always in the shop, but it is possible to get one. The third group is watches that are very, very hard to get. It is almost impossible for most people to walk into a shop and buy one. The most famous watches in this group are the steel Daytona watch, especially with a white or black face. The GMT Master II, with the blue and red color on the edge, called the Pepsi, is also very difficult. Some colorful Oyster Perpetual watches are hard too. Because these watches are so hard to buy from the official shops, another market exists. This is called the secondary market. On this market, people sell their watches to other people or to special watch dealers. These watches are not new from the factory, but they are often in good condition. On the secondary market, the prices for the most wanted watches are much higher than the prices in the official shops. Sometimes a watch costs 2 or 3 times more money. This happens because many people want these watches, and they cannot buy them easily from the official places. The high prices on the secondary market show how much people really want these specific Rolex watches. It shows their high value not just as watches, but as objects that many people desire. This market lets people buy the watches they want, but they must pay a much higher price for them. 7. A new kind of money. Now, let's think about another reason why Rolex watches are hard to get. It is a new idea for many people. They see these watches not just as something to wear, but like an investment. Like buying a painting or an old special car. Some people buy a Rolex because they think its value will go up later. Yes, it is true. The price of some Rolex models has gone up over time. You might buy a watch for a certain price today, and in a few years someone else might pay more for it. This happens especially with the watches that are very hard to find in the shops. This idea makes more people want a Rolex. They are not only buying a watch, they are also buying something that might make them money later. This adds to the high demand. Also, think about social media. Many famous people, like actors or sports stars, wear Rolex watches. They show them in photos and videos. This makes other people see the watches as a symbol of success and a cool lifestyle. When you see popular people wearing something expensive and hard to get, you might want it too. Social media helps make these watches even more popular and wanted around the world. So, a Rolex watch has changed for many people. Before, it was mostly a very good tool for telling time, built to last a long time. It was a sign of quality. But now, for many buyers, it is more than that. It is a strong symbol of being successful, having money, and having a certain style. Because they are hard to buy from official shops, and because their value can increase, and because famous people wear them, Rolex watches have become almost like a new kind of money, or a thing to invest in. This is a big change from how people thought about watches many years ago. It shows how valuable something can become when it is hard to get and seen everywhere by important people. 8. The final word. So, why is it hard to get a Rolex watch? We learned about 3 main reasons in this story. One reason is controlled production. Rolex makes many watches each year, about 1.2 million. But for the most wanted models, they make only a small number. This low number is a plan to keep the watches special and expensive. It is a smart business strategy to limit supply. Another reason is the psychology of wanting things that are hard to get. When something is rare, people desire it more. Waiting a long time or knowing others cannot easily buy it makes the watch feel very valuable and exclusive. The difficulty itself adds to the watch's appeal. A third big reason is investment demand. Many people now buy popular Rolex watches as an investment. They believe the value will increase a lot on the secondary market. This adds many buyers who are looking at the watch not just as a timepiece, but as an asset that can grow in value. Looking ahead, Rolex plans to build new factories. This might mean they make more watches in the future. However, many people think Rolex will continue to control the supply carefully. They understand that being hard to get is now a key part of the brand's success and desirability. In conclusion, the difficulty in buying a Rolex is not a problem. It is the main feature. It has become a strong symbol of success. It shows that some luxury items require more than just money to buy. You often need patience or a purchase history with a shop. It is a luxury that money alone does not always make instantly available. After learning all this, what do you think about waiting years for a watch? Is this a good strategy for a company?
Hey there! Just a second before you go. If you learned something new today, please give this video a like, write your thoughts in the comments, and subscribe to the channel. It only takes a second, and it really, really helps to create even better English videos for you. Your support means the world. Thank you.